Hello everyone. I don't see anyone have joined yet. I just need to check the audio if I'm audible properly. I'm not sure how to find out if people have joined or not. One watching now. Okay, I can see one watching now. So, whoever have has joined, could you please confirm over the live chat that if I'm audible or not? Then I'll start with the story. Am I audible? Okay, I'm talking now. Now am I audible, Shagun? I'm still not audible. Okay. Thanks. So thank you very much. I see another somebody has joined. So two are watching now. Thank you both of you for joining. So it's my first live YouTube live, and in this channel I usually do things around poetry and stories. So I had some of the short stories posted as recorded videos, like podcasts I had done previously and uploaded them in Spotify and on also on YouTube. So some of the very fabulous short stories by Rabindranath Tagore. So this is another one from a collection of short stories by Rabindranath Tagore. Without further ado, let's just start with the short story. Um, since it is my first live YouTube live, I just wanted to, prepare a little bit in the sense I have read the story already once, so that I do not fumble upon any word while reading it for you. But usually, what I used to do when I used to record is I used to just read it the very first time I'm recording, like record it at the very first go, because I always wanted to, capture my own raw emotions or my own first response to that particular um, story, the lines, the emotions. So I wanted to capture the first response all the time. So that was the thought process. But since this is my first YouTube live, I have never experienced this. So I was a little, not sure how it would go. I am still not sure how it would go, but I am hoping that we will have some good few minutes spent together while going through the thoughts and the feelings that Rabindranath Tagore has in store for us through this particular short story. So, thank you very much once again, and so this is a short story. The name of the short story is Shubho. Shubho in Bengali means something good. Okay, so the title of the story is Shubho. I am just reading it out in the pace I myself understand. So I hope you will be able to follow me, and after I complete the entire story, would love to hear from you in the chat if you have any questions or if anything you couldn't understand, or if you have any comments around that story. So let's begin. When the girl was given the name of Subhashini, who could have guessed that she would be dumb when she grew up? Her two elder sisters were Shukeshini and Suhashini, and for the sake of uniformity, her father had named his youngest girl Subhashini. She was called Shubho for short. Her two elder sisters had been married with the usual difficulties in finding husbands and providing dowries, and now the youngest daughter lay like a silent weight upon the heart of her parents. People seemed to think that because she did not speak, therefore she did not feel. They discussed her future and their anxiety concerning it even in her presence. She had understood from her earliest childhood that God had sent her like a curse to her father's house, so she withdrew herself from ordinary people and tried to live apart. If only they would all forget her, she felt she could endure it. But who can forget pain? Night and day, her parents' minds ached with anxiety on her account. Her mother, especially, looked upon her as a deformity. To a mother, a daughter is a more closely intimate part of herself than a son can be, and a fault in her is a source of personal shame. Bonikanto, Shubho's father, loved her rather better than he did his other daughters. Her mother almost hated her as a stain upon her own body. If Shubho lacked speech, she did not lack a pair of large dark eyes, shaded with long lashes, and her lips trembled like a leaf in response to any thought that arose in her mind. When we express our thoughts in words, the medium is not found easily. There must be a process of translation, which is often inexact, and then we fall into error. But black eyes need no translating. The mind itself throws a shadow upon them. In them, thought opens or shuts, shines forth or goes out in darkness, hangs steadfast like the setting moon or like the swift and restless lightning illumines all quarters of the sky. Those who from birth have had no other speech than the trembling of their lips learn a language of the eyes, endless in expression, deep as the sea, clear as the heavens, wherein play dawn and sunset, light and shadow. The dumb have a lonely grandeur, like nature's own. Wherefore, the other children almost dreaded Shubho and never played with her. She was silent and companionless as the noontide. She lived in a small village called Chandipur. The river on whose bank it stood was small, for a river of Bengal, and kept to its narrow bounds like a daughter of the middle class. This busy streak of water never overflowed its banks, but went about its duties as though it were a member of every family in the villages besides it. On either side were houses and banks shaded with trees. So, stepping from her queenly throne, the river goddess became a garden deity of each home, and forgetful of herself, performed her task of endless benediction with swift and cheerful feet. Bonikantha's house looked out upon the stream. Every hut and stack in the place could be seen by the passing boatman. I know not if amid these signs of worldly wealth anyone noticed the little girl who, when her work was done, stole away to the waterside and sat there. But here nature herself made up for her want of speech and spoke for her. The murmur of the brook, the voice of the village folk, the songs of the boatmen, the cry of the birds, and the rustle of trees mingled and were one with the trembling of her heart. They became one vast wave of sound which beat upon her restless soul. This murmur movement of nature was the dumb girl's language, that speech of the dark eyes, which the long lashes shaded, was the language of the world about her. From the trees where the cicala chirped, to the quiet stars, there was nothing but signs and gestures, weeping and sighing. And in the deep mid noon, when the boatmen and fisher folk had gone to their dinner, when the villagers slept and the birds were still, when the ferry boats were idle, when the great busy world paused in its toil and became suddenly a lonely, awful giant, then beneath the vast, impressive heavens there were only dumb nature and a dumb girl, sitting very silent. One under the spreading sunlight, the other where a small tree cast its shadow. But Shubha was not altogether without friends. In the stall were two cows, Shorbashi and Panguli. They had never heard their names from her lips, but they knew her footfall. Though she could form no words, she murmured lovingly, and they understood her gentle murmuring better than all speech. When they fondled them, or scolded or coaxed them, they understood her better than men could do. Shubho would come to the shed and throw her arms round Shorvashish's neck. She would rub her cheek against her friend's, and Panguli would turn her great kind eyes and lick her face. The girl visited them regularly 3 times a day, and at many an odd moment as well. Whenever she heard any words that hurt her, she would come to these dumb friends, even though it might not be the hour of a regular visit. It was as though they guessed her anguish of spirit from her look of quiet sadness. Coming close to her, they would rub their horns softly against her arms, and in dumb, puzzled fashion try to comfort her. Besides this, there were goats and a kitten, but Shubho had not the same equal friendship with them, though they showed the same attachment. Every time it got a chance, night or day, the kitten would jump into her lap and settle down to slumber, and show its appreciation of an aid to sleep as Shubho drew her soft fingers over its neck and back. Shubho had a comrade, also among the higher animals, and it is hard to say what were the girl's relations with him, for he could speak, after his gift of speech left them without any common language. He was the youngest boy of the Goshains, Pratap by name, an idle fellow. After long effort, his parents had abandoned the hope of his ever making a living. Now, losers have this advantage that though their own folk disapprove of them, they are generally popular with everyone else. Having no work to chain them, they became public property. Just as every town needs an open space where all may breathe, so a village needs 2 or 3 gentlemen of leisure who can give time to all. Then, if we are lazy and want a companion, one is to hand. Pratap's chief ambition was to catch fish. He managed to waste a lot of time this way and might be seen almost any afternoon so employed. It was thus most often that he met Shubho. Whatever he was about, he liked a companion. And when one is trying to catch fish, a silent companion is best of all. Pratap respected Shubho for her silence, and as everyone called her Shubho, he showed his affection by calling her Shu. Shubho used to sit beneath a tamarind tree, and Pratap, a little distance off, would cast his line. Pratap Pratap took with him a small allowance of betel, and Shubha prepared it for him. And I think that, sitting there and gazing a long while, she desired ardently to bring some great help to Pratap, to be a real aid, to prove by any means that she was not a useless burden in the world. But there was nothing to do. Then she turned to the Creator in prayer for some rare power that by an astonishing miracle she might startle Pratap into exclaiming, "My, I never dreamt our shoe could do this." Only think, if Shubho had been a water nymph, she might have risen slowly from the river, bringing the gem of the snake's crown to the landing place. Then Pratap, leaving his paltry fishing, might have divided into the lower world and seen there on a golden bed, might have dived into the lower world and seen there on a golden bed in a palace of silver whom else but dumb little Shu, Ponikanto's child. Yes, our Shu, the only daughter of the king of that shining city of jewels. But that might not be. It was impossible. Not that anything is really impossible, but Shu had been born not only into the royal house of Patalpur, but into Bonikantha's family, and thus she knew of no means by which she might astonish the Goshain's boy. She grew up and little by little began to find herself. A new inexpressible consciousness, like a tide from the central places of the sea when the moon is full, swept through her. She saw herself, questioned herself, but no answer came that she could understand. Late one night, when the moon was full, she slowly opened her door and timidly peeped out. Nature herself at full moon, like lonely Shubho, was looking down on the sleeping earth. Shubho's strong young life beat within her. Joy and sadness filled her being to its brim. She had felt unutterably lonely before, but her feeling of loneliness was this moment as its intensest. Her heart was heavy and she could not speak. At the skirts of the silent, troubled mother there stood a silent, troubled girl. The thought of her marriage filled her parents with anxious care. People blamed them and even talked of making them outcasts. Bonikanto was well off, his family even had fish curry twice daily, and consequently he did not lack enemies. Then the woman interfered, and Boni went away for a few days. Presently he returned and said, "We must go to Calcutta." They got ready to go to this strange place. Shubha's heart was heavy with tears, like a mist wrapped dawn. With a vague fear that had been gathering for days, she dogged her father and mother like a dumb animal. With her large eyes wide open, she scanned their faces as though she wished to learn something, but not a word did they vouchsafe. One afternoon, in the midst of all this, as Pratap was fishing, he laughed. "So then, Shu, they have caught your bridegroom, and you are going to be married. Mind you, don't forget me altogether." Then he turned his mind again to his fishing. as a stricken doe looks in the hunter's face, asking in silent agony, "What have I done to harm you?" So Shubho looked at Pratap. That day she sat no longer beneath her tree. Bonikanto, having finished his nap, was smoking in his bedroom when Shubho dropped at his feet and burst out weeping as she gazed towards him. Bonikanto tried to comfort her, and his own cheek grew wet with tears. It was settled that on the morrow they should go to Calcutta. Shubho went to the cowshed to bid farewell to the comrades of her childhood. She fed them from her hand. She clasped their necks. She looked into their faces, and tears fell fast from the eyes which spoke for her. That night was the 10th of the new moon. Shubha left her room and flung herself down on her grassy couch beside the river she loved so much. It was as if she threw her arms about the earth, her strong, silent mother, and tried to say, "Do not let me leave you, mother. Put your arms about me as I have put mine about you, and hold me fast." One day, in a house in Calcutta, Shubha's mother dressed her up with great care. She imprisoned her hair, knotting it up in laces. She hung her about with ornaments and did her best to kill her natural beauty. Shubha's eyes filled with tears. Her mother, fearing they would grow swollen with weeping, scolded her harshly. But the tears disregarded the scolding. The bridegroom came with a friend to inspect the bride. Her parents were dizzy with anxiety and fear when they saw the god arrive to select the beast for his sacrifice. Behind the stage, the mother called her instructions aloud, so that her daughter's weeping redoubled before she sent her into the examiner's presence. The great man, after looking her up and down a long time, observed, "Not so bad." He took special note of her tears and thought she must have a tender heart. He put it to her credit in the account, arguing that the heart which today was distressed at leaving her parents would presently prove a useful possession. Like the oyster's pearls, the child's tears only increased her value, and he made no other comment. The almanac was consulted, and the marriage took place on an auspicious day. Having delivered their dumb girl into another's hands, Shubho's parents returned home. Thank God! Their caste in the world and their safety in the next were assured. The bridegroom's work lay in the west, and shortly after the marriage he took his wife thither. In less than 10 days, everyone knew that the bride was dumb. At least, if anyone did not, it was not her fault, for she deceived no one. Her eyes told them everything, though no one understood her. She looked on every hand, but found no speech. She missed the faces, familiar from birth, of those who had understood a dumb girl's language. In her silent heart there sounded an endless, voiceless weeping which only the searcher of hearts could hear. That's all. So, whenever I read Tagore's stories, it's always very, it takes me to some different level of silence altogether. I don't know. Uh, this is a very different one, what I felt. I am no one to actually comment on what kind of stories a great man like him can uh, write. But what I felt is Shubhashini, also known as Shubho, was a dumb girl, and this story revolves around her. Who writes a story on a dumb person? A person who cannot talk, who cannot speak, who cannot express to one's heart's content. What a difficult life that could be, and this story tries its best in a short format to touch upon the difficulties, the sadness, the challenges uh, one faces if one is dumb, and how the parents identified themselves as the you know as the parents of a dumb child. The mother would actually see her as a personal fault and would just treat her bad, not treat her well at all. And I when my grandmother was unwell, I have seen her lost the power of speech for some time, for a few days, and I have seen that struggle in front of my own eyes. When you want to say something but you are not able to speak, you do not have that strength, you do not have that power to speak. That's a terrible, horrible thing. And just imagine someone born with that, someone who is not able to speak all his or her life. That could be so challenging, we can only just imagine. So stories like this actually takes us in a ride to their lives for some time. And as you probably you must have noticed that in this entire story there is the the interaction, the dialogues between the characters is very minimal, because the entire story, the protagonist is a dumb girl. So there is silence all through. It's all the narrator. It's all in what is she trying to express through her eyes, through her tears. The with the very minimal options that she had to express herself. And even in the end, it's a very big headache for parents in those days. Even in nowadays also, it's marriage is a very big thing for getting the daughters married is a very big headache for parents. And in those days it would be even bigger to belong to a village and to not get their daughter married is as the villagers were talking about, that they will be outcast if they fail to get their daughter married. So they could not but you know just go to Calcutta and find one match, and somehow the uh, person just liked her and agreed to get married. They did not even disclose the fact that she was a dumb girl. So the parents kind of deceived the groom's family. But of course, that was found out within less than 10 days of their marriage. But she was not at fault, right? She did not lie, she did not deceive anyone. But her life kept on, even more full of struggles, because earlier at least she was amongst the people she was, born in, uh, the people, the known faces, the familiar faces. but now she knows no one there. And just imagine, and the interaction, the relationship, the the nuances of the relationship that was there between Shubho and Pratap is also beautiful. The, the period when um, a child grows to be a young girl, and the feelings, the tender feelings that start growing into their minds is very beautifully touched upon. And how two idol characters become popular, and you know everyone feels lonely once or twice, once in a while. And when you have some, you know people who are lazy, or who has have nothing to do, they become companion, you know uh, immediate companion for them. So all those aspects beautifully touched upon. um, and loneliness, of course, if you're dumb, even if you're not dumb, to find real companionship, to find people who would like to spend time with you is very hard. And if you are dumb, just imagine how lonely that the world can be for uh, those people. So, yeah, a very beautiful story. Thank you for spending this amount of time with me. I always love reading these stories. And if you have any questions, or if you have anything to comment or say, please feel free to ping in the chat. I am reading. We will close in some time. Uh, Rita says an awesome one. Yes, it is an awesome one. And I thank you for being here and um, hearing out the story. So, yeah, if nothing else, I hope I'll keep doing this, and, you know, spending some quality time amidst the grand feelings that great minds like Rabindranath Tagore wanted to share. Okay, thank you very much. See you once again sometime soon.